It's what's in your wallet.
I'm so old.
I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5 explosive hot dog carts.
Ritualistic blood magic.
Laser shooting chesty statues.
Don't watch movies unless we tell you to. Welcome to Movies with My Best Friend Phil, a movie podcast for photographers and photographers only.
Oh boy.
We cater to photographers only.
All right.
And it's only Fujifilm.
Okay. See you guys. I gotta go.
Photographers.
I triggered somebody, and that's all I wanted. I am your host, Phil Fujifilm Kessel. Joined as always by two of my very best friends in the whole gosh darn world. Maybe even in the whole solar system. I'd say universe, but I haven't met everyone. So I'm gonna give a tentative first place to somebody outside of the solar system, if that fits.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm joined by Craig Nikon Norland.
Oh, okay. Are we doing brands here?
Yeah, I figured we watched a movie that is about a camera.
Okay.
We're all cameras now.
Oh man, what's Will? Is he Kodak? Fuji?
The one that's not around anymore. Oh man. No, I'm also joined by Will Sony Chodas.
Sony Chodas, huh?
I didn't know. Sony doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Not
But to
Canon.
be honest, I feel like Fuji feels better for you than it does for me.
Yeah. Well, I actually,
even though I have a Fuji,
I use Canon, so Canon would be. But I actually, I don't use. See, here's the thing. You kind of hit a button for me. You hit a little like, what's the word?
oh gosh, that's so weird.
Hot topic.
I never even meant to do that.
Because every single time I go to an event, an event to shoot for work, I always say as I'm leaving, is there anything else you need from me? And without fail, they will say, can you take a group photo? And I will go, nope, I'm a videographer. This isn't a video. This is a video camera. I can use my phone and try. But no, and they're like, come on, you got to have something that's not. And it's like, no, I don't. I don't have the thing that I don't need for my job. I don't. yeah.
Phil, did you say Kodak was out of business?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kodak's
They're not
dead, or they got rolled into. Who am I thinking of?
They're still around.
Yeah.
I mean, they declared bankruptcy, but they came out of it.
Oh, maybe that's just what I'm thinking of. If you declare bankruptcy, you're dead to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I have some bad news for you.
I don't know exactly what Kodak does anymore. I think they still process film for indie stuff, but I don't know if they do. I don't think they make any cameras or anything.
No, they do digital services is what I was just reading, and they also announced that they're going to get into pharmaceuticals. So,
what?
Evil.
Okay, that sounds weird initially, and I will say it stays weird throughout. But there's a lot of chemicals involved in.
That's true.
Film development.
Yeah, you're a chemist. Oh, there is. Yeah.
So there's something there. I just don't know that it. I don't know that it translates. It's like being an Uber driver and then saying you're gonna get into
guitars.
I was gonna say stunt racing.
Oh, that's
Indy
closer.
500. Yes, you drive, but not in the same way. Oh man. Well, I do need to issue a correction.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Will Cannon Chodas.
Oh, I still hate it.
No, I know you do, but I had to. You can splice that in at the beginning, and then everything we set up until this point makes no sense.
Okay,
and it'll be perfect. It's great to listen.
I always follow your notes.
That's what I thought because I've listened to all the episodes, and all my notes are right in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Oh God. Oh no!
What happened?
I blanked on everything.
Who we are, what we're doing here.
Who are you, guys? I don't know what to say. For once in my life, I'm at a loss for words.
Phil, have you ever lost something else? I mean, it's something that you typically have in your back pocket and it holds things that are very important to you?
Oh, my backpack.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, not your backpack. No.
Yeah, I call it my backpack because it's in my back pocket. Backpack.
Okay.
Back pocket.
Craig, I think I know what you're talking about. Actually,
yeah,
because
okay.
I lose it almost every day. It's this fun game I get to play with my kids, which is, hey kids, I know Dad was rushing us out the door, and we all have to leave, but he's misplaced something, so now we have to all stop dead and look around for it because for whatever reason it's never in the same spot.
Yeah.
And it's my keys. So is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our segment everyone knows and loves, our keys.
I always love keeping my keys in my back pocket so that when I sit down, they stab me in the butt.
Yeah.
That's what I like. I don't keep anything in my back pockets. Anything.
Our keys to the kingdom, our keyblades. I don't know what to call this segment then. I think it's a wallet.
Oh, that's right. It's the segment where we reach deep into our best friend's pants and whip out some recommendations. It's what's in your wallet.
Listen, Craig, doesn't it feel great to join in on the segment?
You were like
one of us.
Completely gone. I had to pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, I lost everything. Fire.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I don't know. Will, you're sitting there.
Yeah.
Craig, what is in your wallet recently? What is your jam? What is tickling your fancy?
So I will just mention real quick, kind of piggyback off of Zach's recommendation. A friend of the show, Zach Demers, who was on for Blue Velvet.
We should have him on.
What's he up to these days?
Yeah,
we went to see Joe Pera live in
Oh,
Royal Oak yesterday, and it was really funny.
did I tell you that I watched the first episode?
Oh no, I don't think so.
Oh, it was tremendous. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was great. Is he just like that live?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Like I really can't tell if all of this is a character, because like I watched a clip of him on Conan and he looks so nervous, but you know that he's not. He just keeps going. It's just really funny.
Oh man.
So that was really fun. But my real recommendation today is going to be for the movie The Raid. And I talked to you about this, Phil.
Yes.
And Netflix
to the listeners about this now, and I will listen gladly.
So I think on Netflix it's called The Raid Redemption, which is not confusing at all because you're like, oh, this must be the sequel. No, it's the first one. I don't know why they call it that in some cases, but
the second one's called Raid 2 Redemption Doubled.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Probably.
Raid 2 The Redemption 2 or something.
Raid 2 Punch Kick Punch.
Yes. So this is an Indonesian film. And how I've been describing it to people is if you liked the first season of Daredevil and like just the choreography of the fighting and just kind of the brutality of it all, you'll really love The Raid. Both films the first and second one are supposed to be equally great. I haven't seen the second one yet, but it's all about they're doing this raid. Imagine that of this apartment complex in Jakarta, and it's run by a drug lord. And so you think everything like, oh, this is pretty easy. You know, it's a lot of gunplay at first, and then it just devolves into more hand-to-hand stuff as everyone gets mostly wiped out. So it's extremely good. Check it out. It's only on Netflix for like another week or so. It's like early April. It's going to go away. So I'm sure it'll pop up somewhere else. But if you want to easily
get in a time machine, because by the time this comes out, we'll be in April.
It's going to be gone.
Oh no!
I am going to try and watch that because that was almost on my list for martial arts month when we were doing months. I swapped it out for I think I swapped it out for Ong Bak.
I was going to say, it sounds like that's a good flip.
Yeah, it was between the two, and I was more interested in the story in Ong Bak, but both that and the raid finds its way onto like every list of greatest fight scenes choreographed.
Yeah, it's insane.
And like most brutal fight scenes choreographed. And I don't like violence, but I like when a movie does violence. I want to say accurately, but it's not exactly accurate. Like brutally, and not like as much for play.
Yeah,
you know. And like I'm assuming the raid is like this, and like Ong Bak, where like bones break.
It's yeah. There were
you get
many
punched
times
heavy, you get kicked heavy, and then like your body reacts correctly to that in the movie.
There were many times where Veronica and I were just going, ooh, oh, God, no. So
that's awesome. Oh, I gotta watch. Is the second one on Netflix?
Let me see where that one's at. I don't think it is. Nothing's easy these days trying to find something.
Everywhere or nowhere.
So the raid, it's just on Netflix right now, and the raid 2 is on Tubi.
Tubi
or
not Tubi. We did it. We're best friends.
Will is so uninterested in everything I've said so far. So
how
would you go, Will?
What?
Will doesn't like punching.
I don't like punching. I'm against punching. By the
What
way,
about
Dragon Ball.
kicking?
I've been playing a lot of
he's an
Dragon Ball
elbow
Z.
guy only.
Oh yeah, right.
Dropping bows.
Yeah, you want to know what's in my wallet?
I do actually.
Really, because it's empty. Both literally and figuratively for this segment. Okay,
tell me about the last show you watched.
Right, and I was going to get to that. So I did roll credits, just so everyone knows, on Kakarot, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and I have to say, got a little teary-eyed at a couple points. And
as well, you should have.
And I was like, oh man, I missed the show. And it's post game is a lot of fun because then you get all the characters on your team, and you can just kind of like do whatever you want. And then you get more and more. So basically, you get access to the Dragon Balls, and what you wish for, you can wish for money, or like items, or you can wish for all of the old villains to come back and fight them. So of course that's what you do. Of course
you do that. Yeah. Is it? Wait, do they call money? No, that's Kingdom Hearts. Is it Zenny?
It's Zenny. Yeah.
Zenny. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do they call money?
Well, Kingdom Hearts calls it money, but they spell it like MUNNI.
No, I think it's money like honey is misspelled in Winnie the Pooh. That's the joke. I think.
Yeah, it's MUMMY. No, MUNNY. Money.
Yeah,
money. I have a question about Kakarot.
Sure.
Okay. And this is my mark for if a Dragon Ball Z game is good. Is Bardock in it?
So he is.
Okay.
But as DLC. That's how they do everything these days.
Yeah.
If you buy it on the Switch, you come with the first two DLCs, which is the two seasons of Dragon Ball Super. But I haven't gotten to that yet. I don't know how to unlock it yet. I'm still getting all the post game stuff.
Have you seen the movies that came out?
Yes. When God of
because we talked about this.
Was it War of Gods, something like that?
Yeah.
It came out.
Battle of the Gods or something.
Battle of the Gods. My brothers and I and my cousin saw it in the theater.
Yeah, Sean and I went and saw it in theaters, and then we saw the Frieza one in theaters.
Oh, I didn't see the Frieza one. I did see.
It's sick.
I thought the Battle of the Gods was terrible.
I've seen Dragon Ball Evolution. Does that count?
It does not. And actually, you are no longer allowed to say the words Dragon Ball again.
Okay.
Because you mentioned that.
I think it's my favorite Dragon Ball thing I've ever seen.
Okay.
Ooh.
That explains a lot about your terrible personality.
Yeah. This is why we can never.
This is why I
truly
can't
be
joke with
brothers.
Will about things that he likes.
It's always a bad idea. People keep doing it and they're not learning. No, I don't.
I don't know why I like Bardock so much. I just really liked the movie special.
Well,
with him.
those movies were the movies were weird because for those of you who are unaware, Dragon Ball Z is based off a manga, right? And it was wildly popular. So the people who made the anime were like, how are we going to make more money off of this or give people more Dragon Ball Z? So they started making movies of whatever, half the characters are dead or on a different planet. So none of them fit. But they did come up with 2 prequel sort of movies. One of them is all about future Trunks and his life before he goes back in time, and then the other one is about Goku's dad, Bardock, which is that one was just a cool one because it was oh my god, this is what Goku's dad was like, and he's a ruthless killer.
Yeah, he's a real bad dude.
Yeah,
He
because
just happens to stand up against Frieza.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. He stands up to Frieza at the end.
Yeah.
He's still a really bad dude.
yeah, because Akira
He never,
Toriyama retcons his own
fixes-
main character, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he was an alien the whole time," and you're like, "No, he wasn't." No, he wasn't. And it's and the reason why he's got a tail is because he's from another planet. And it's loads of people in this show had tails. There's a character who's a pig. Is it ever addressed why he's a pig? No. There's a floating, flying, talking cat who can shapeshift. They don't go what planet is she from? Yeah, he's Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z is just a complete shift from fantasy to science fiction superheroes. It's really kind of weird how that happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's in my wallet? It's you know what I've been watching a lot of, and I've mentioned it before, so I'm gonna just have it be my recommendation. Is Rick and Morty.
Okay.
You guys haven't watched that show, and it is a show that I have. Oh, you have? Do you
I've
like
seen
it?
how many seasons are there?
There's 7.
Okay, I think I've seen the first 4 seasons.
Oh, okay. Do you like it?
I don't know because
Oh,
I feel like
weird.
there is so much behind me saying I like Rick and Morty
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
I don't want to say it.
Well,
I enjoyed parts of it.
So-
I don't like a lot of the people who like
so
the show.
yeah, I want to. Okay, so I was like that at first. I was like, oh, people who like the
itself
show,
is good.
yeah, and it's like everything that is.
You
It's
gotta be really smart to appreciate
no,
this
it
show.
isn't. No, it is. Yeah, yes, you do. You actually do have to be really smart, and also you have to not love anyone but yourself. And among the people you don't love, women have to be number one of the things you don't care for. Because
oh man, you're speaking
the
my language.
hero of the show is obviously Rick, and you need to live your life off of his philosophies because he's the smartest person ever. So the problem with the show is the main character is Rick, and he's a terrible, awful human being, and that's what's funny about it. It's basically Back to the Future if Doc was an alcoholic asshole who is a nihilist and didn't care about humans. He didn't care about anybody. That's
And the
basically
science was way more advanced than
Yeah.
just
Well,
the
they
DeLorean
did
time
just-
machine.
Yeah, right. And a lot of people, watch the show who are young men and will go Rick's the coolest. I'm going to be like Rick.
It's
And
got
it's-
that Fight Club energy.
Yes. And it's did you watch the show? He in later season, the show keeps going. And in later seasons, it pretty much says on no certain terms that Rick is a miserable bastard. And the reason
Yeah.
why he's miserable is because he decides to be miserable as opposed to making himself a better person. Right.
Yeah.
There's so it's a good show. A lot of good people work on it. I like Dan Harmon a lot. I also like Heather Ann Campbell from Get Played, and she was in Whose Line Is It Anyway, the reboot and stuff. She
But Will's favorite is Justin
I
Roiland.
was just about to talk about Justin Roiland. Justin Roiland is the guy who he did the voice of both Rick and Morty. uh, and it came to pass that he wasn't a good. I don't know what he was accused of. Probably something with something rapey. That's what they're always accused of.
I believe it was something in that field.
Yeah, and apparently him and Dan Harmon hadn't been in the same room with each other in like years. Like,
really?
Yeah, they didn't get along at all.
Yeah.
And he only came in to do like the voices and things. And so when his absence is not noticed at all. Like,
really?
Yeah.
That is surprising for the person who voices the two main characters.
Yeah, they got two people who sound exactly like him.
That's awesome.
I was watching season 7 and going like I was like halfway through and I was like, wait, when did Justin Roiland get kicked out? Oh, this season. Oh, he's not in this one. Holy
dang, that's really cool.
Yeah. And it's just as funny. And the thing that I like about it is it's one of those shows that like knows that it's a show. So if you're somebody who watches a lot of sci-fi and watches a lot of TV shows, like it's a show that makes fun of these shows, but it's also a really good version of that show. Like it's also a really fun, interesting version of the science fiction romp, you know, like they go on these like, and it
genuinely has its cake and eats it too.
Yeah. And it does all the like things that like all the like fun moral questions that people love to do with science fiction, except for it takes it yes ands itself to a horrible degree. To like just some of the like, and so like if you like dark comedy, it's really good, and it surprised me how much I liked it, considering how much the people who talk about how cool it is suck.
That's always been my biggest struggle.
Yeah, and unfortunately, some people ruin stuff, and you know,
it's. I sometimes have a problem with remembering that like the center part of a Venn diagram is the only part that is shared.
Right. Yeah.
So like the other parts, like yes, I have in common with this douchebag that I also enjoyed watching Rick and Morty. Yeah. That doesn't mean I'm a douchebag.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't mean I have the same opinion.
To me, it reminds me a lot of like Star Wars, you know, like so many assholes love Star Wars and are like, Anakin is the best. He wanted to control his wife, and you know, like that's the best part about him. And you're like, that's the worst part about him. That's why. That's literally why he died. That was like the downfall of his character was that part, you know? And it's like, no, people like just like don't. So like no matter what you do, it's like when you create a character as interesting and as, you know, like fun to watch as like the Joker. And then next thing you know, you got people who are like, oh, the Joker is such a cool character. I want to be just like the Joker, or I want to be just like the Punisher. And you're like, no, did you watch this? You obviously didn't consume this because you don't know who this is. And so
what do we name this effect?
Because I don't know. It is like the Rick and Morty effect, you know?
Yeah. And like Fight Club, I know is like a big version of like, you weren't supposed to like the guy in Fight Club.
Yeah.
He's a bad dude. And I feel like there are probably examples earlier than that.
Yeah,
but I feel like
that
was
Fight
like
Club to me,
pinnacle.
Fight Club to me is more of like an example of like men like watching something and going like, yeah, I am interesting. And then like everyone else is like, I also watched that and I think I'm interesting too. And it's like, oh no, it's doesn't make you interesting liking Fight Club. That just makes yeah. It's like one of those movies that feels non-mainstream, but is. Oh, Clockwork Orange. Great example.
I haven't seen it, but I know that like
you would hate it.
I'm sure I would. From what I know of it, I would hate it.
You would hate it so much.
That is one that I feel like also people took the exact wrong thing from.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's got to go back further than that, though.
Oh, of course. Like
it's just interesting.
I can think of one
absolute wrong.
Yeah, I can think of one. The motherfucking Bible.
Taking it way back.
Woo!
Yeah,
Back
that
about
one gets
6,000 years
misunderstood.
ago. You know what I'm saying?
That one gets misunderstood constantly, and it's just it's like, oh, cool. You know, you wouldn't be saying that if you read the goddamn thing. That anyway,
Oh
never.
my god. Yep.
Yeah. So, anywho,
So we'll call it the Bible
the
effect.
Bible effect. Craig, how do you feel about that?
I'm all right.
Yeah. So I've been rewatching Rick and Morty. It's funny.
Man.
Obviously it's got a problematic creator. I don't know. It is an interesting question. Like, at what point are you supporting this problematic person? But also, like, I like Heather Ann Campbell, and I want her to remain employed, and like,
Yeah.
and she's a writer on the show, and she wrote one of the best episodes of season 7.
Oh,
And-
I'm sorry, Will. Are you saying if she was employed by Hitler that you'd want to?
You'd support the Third Reich.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're
It
yes.
is really.
You know what? Anyone who's ever done anything bad is also Hitler. You're right. That's the black and white binary world I want to live in.
It is genuinely such a hard thing to navigate, though. Of like,
It is.
like you don't want to support the douchey guy, but like, yeah, to your like statement, like, how much are you actually supporting him by just watching the show? And if you're supporting him by watching the show, you're also supporting the other people
Right.
that aren't douchebags that
Right.
you want to see succeed. So it's I mean, it's tough. I genuinely sometimes have a really hard time separating
Yeah.
art from the
yes,
artist.
You do.
Really?
I listen,
But
guys.
it also-
I know that about
It
myself.
also matters when you watch the thing as well. So like I was into Rick and Morty before all this stuff with him coming out as being a creep and a weirdo. But also like his presence, it's not like it's about him. It's not like when the show Louis got ruined because Louis C.K. came out as a creep. Like it's impossible to watch that show and remove Louis C.K. from it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Yeah.
this show has got nothing to, I mean, I don't know the guy at all. So I don't know how much of it is based off him, but like the characters are the characters and they are who I like. To me, it doesn't, I don't like, you know what I mean? Like it's easier to remove, but it does kind of like, it is interesting because like I was thinking about like even like The Shining, right? Like, and that movie is fantastic, right? It's a really great horror movie. But what's her name? Shelley Duvall is like basically tortured, and part of you is like kind of going like, obviously that's not good. Like we shouldn't support this film, I guess, because she was like tortured in it. But also like at the same time, like now her sacrifice is being erased completely if we don't watch it a little bit. It's sort of like a weird way to like, I guess it depends on how she feels about it too. If she was to say like, don't watch this movie because I was harmed during it. But I'm sure probably what she would say is something along the lines of stop calling Stanley Kubrick a genius. Which
it might be as simple as that.
Yeah. And which I'm like, okay, yeah, you can watch the movie, but don't call him a genius. Call him a manipulative maniac. And it's like, oh yeah.
Aren't those kind of the same thing?
Well, that's
now we've entered an entirely new discussion of where like genius gets to be gets to get off scot-free with being an asshole. It's the House problem. It's the Sherlock problem.
Yes,
it's the like, oh, I'm very smart.
It
so I
is
get
the
to be a
white
total
male in
asshole.
charge problem. That's it's
man,
Steve Jobs.
yeah. Oh man, I just watched
it. Ass.
I just listened to
bitches.
I just listened to a Behind the Bastards on Steve Jobs. Go listen to it. Steve Jobs was a terrible father.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes, he denied. He like on live television basically said he was like, I'm pretty sure that, you know, I think her name was like his daughter is not his, and you know, who knows who the father could be? It could be anybody. So he basically said not that like this probably isn't my kid, and my not my wife, my girlfriend at the time was a slut or something like that. Like it was just he's just
You don't get a lot of milk from Alpaca.
Sorry. There it is.
There it is. Yeah, it's
My wife.
It's yeah, he bad guy. Also the guy who did Dennis the Menace, terrible dad. Who knew? Anyways,
Who knew shitty people existed
I mean,
everywhere?
Phil, what you got
Oh yeah,
in your
I guess
wallet?
we're still doing a whole thing.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying.
I had
the
nothing, and that
moment.
was the longest "What's in my wallet" I've ever done.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Okay, so you were talking about Dragon Ball Z. I do want to bring up on Netflix there is a live action adaptation of Yu Yu Hakusho, which is one of my favorite anime of all time.
I loved. I have. Not over here, but I have a drawing that our buddy Ryan Isepi drew of
Oh, I love
Kuwabara,
Ryan.
and it's him with his shirt off, and it just says Kuwabara's hot.
Yes.
Because Kuwabara was my favorite character, and we were watching an episode together once, and he took his shirt off, and because we were a bunch of homophobic little boys, we were like Ryan and everyone was like, "Oh, why did he take his shirt off?" And I just, with my very matter of fact brain, I was just like, "Well, he's hot," and I never lived it down.
Oh my God, Will.
I never,
Oh,
because he was in a place that was on fire. He was literally standing in a fire
Oh,
tunnel,
God.
and he took his shirt off, and they were like, "Oh God, why do you take his shirt off? It's so gay." And I was
was
just
it when
well,
they were
he's
fighting
hot.
the spirit beasts?
I don't remember. I've
know
tried
exactly
to
when you're talking
destroy that memory from my brain because of the amount of shame I had over it for the longest time. Anyways,
Yeah.
So they did an adaptation. This is my favorite anime of all time. It has arguably people have said that the anime has one of the best tournament arcs. A lot of animes have a lot of fighting and a lot of them have tournaments.
yeah.
Yu Yu Hakusho is going to go down in history as having, if not the best, certainly top 3 tournament arcs of all time.
Really?
And it is
even
it's
better than the
second
Piccolo
season-
Jr. saga.
100%. 100%.
100%.
Is
100%.
this
Goku
is this
proposes
movie,
to Chi-Chi in that one.
Is this movie better than Dragon Ball Evolution? I doubt it.
Okay. I'm getting there.
But, okay, good.
So this tournament happens. We're 80 episodes into the anime, I'm pretty sure. We've gone through seasons of growth and seasons of change and whatnot. The Netflix adaptation, I was 3 episodes in and I was like, this is fucking fire. This is good. I am really into this. And then the last 4 episodes combine 60 episodes of content
Wow.
into just those 4 episodes, and it is fine. It's well made, I suppose, but it is so rushed that it ruined the entire series, and I was really hopeful because
Oh,
I
man.
was so upset. I was so ready to be disappointed at this because live action adaptations of anime sometimes don't do well at all. But they had just done One Piece, which isn't an anime I watched, but it's one that people said the adaptation was really, really good. And I was like, okay, I am hyped. This is going to be something to watch. And there were so many cool parts. And it was the first 4, maybe the first 5 out of 8 episodes were great. And then it just derailed itself by cramming way too much into the last few episodes. I feel like they're not going to do a second season. But if they do, I'm probably still going to watch it because I feel like they pretty much nailed the casting personally. Kuwabara felt like Kuwabara and Yusuke felt like Yusuke. And I really enjoyed that. And they were young too.
Oh, cool.
Which is I feel like a lot of times with the adaptations, they're like, oh, they're in high school. Why don't we cast a 28-year-old with
Yeah.
a beard? You're like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? So that is my middle of the road. If you're a big Yu Yu Hakusho fan, first off, get at me because I want to talk about it. And then maybe watch this. But if you're not, let's move on to my second actual recommendation of the thing that I watched today. It is called Ravenous. It is a 1999 horror comedy Western. I will say I didn't get a lot of comedy from it, but that's fine. But it's a horror Western. You know I love horror. You know I love Westerns. They mixed the two and they did it pretty well. It's got Guy Pearce. It's got Wendigo in it, except for not portrayed like
Oh man,
classic
Wendigo
with,
is
deer
such a
antlers.
good actor.
Wendigo is my favorite.
I mean,
actor.
he is in everything. I mean, like if you want to
recognize him in all
Yeah.
the things, but like
Yeah.
he never gets the big part.
no, I mean
But
he's
that's
a good
his
character.
strength.
He's a character actor. I mean, you don't expect to see him.
He's a real Margot Martindale.
Yeah.
You know? It doesn't have the Wendigo like with the antlers, which is kind of a bummer.
Oh, okay.
It's more of like a revision, is it a revisionist Western when it's like white people are bad? Is that the there's a bunch.
Do you
So
mean
there's
accurate,
like
or-
classic Westerns, and then there's like revisionist Westerns, and I'm pretty sure revisionist Westerns, they're not revising history, they're revising older Westerns to show that white people were really bad. And this is one of those, because the whole thing is like Manifest Destiny is very bad. White people are bad.
Hmm.
They all deserve to die.
Yikes.
And I'm here
I
for
should-
that movie.
Yeah. I should not feel bad about anything I've ever done or white people have ever done. So, yeah.
You're not a fan of the revisionist Western?
No, I want only the one where I feel good about my choices and the choices of my ancestors,
Okay,
who are all
yeah.
noble people.
Yes.
All right, I got a John Wayne movie to show you. Or sorry,
All right.
20 John Wayne movies to show you.
Yeah, cool movie though. I definitely I would recommend it if you are a fan of westerns. I would recommend it if you're a fan of horror. I would recommend it if you're a fan of horror westerns because there's not a lot of those, and this is one of the better ones.
Did you like it more or less than Bone Tomahawk?
Ooh, I think. Ooh, that is so tough because Bone Tomahawk is way more modern, so the execution looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Like everything looks better in Bone Tomahawk, but I think I liked Ravenous better. I think it's a way simpler, not simpler. It's a way more like scoped down plot. It is
Yeah.
essentially two characters. There's a few other characters, but it's basically one dude versus the other dude.
Yeah.
And there's not as much questionable white people. It's very critical of Manifest Destiny, so it's got that going for it. The concept is really cool. Robert Carlyle is in it, and he's very good in
Ooh.
it.
Yeah.
He's very good in it.
Okay. I mean, he's good in everything.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Rumpelstiltskin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Not a show I watched. Not a show.
It's a show.
You guys are probably not surprised.
It's one of those shows that was on in my house while I did other things, and Caitlin watched it. So I'd walk
enough.
in, I go like, "Which dwarf is that?" And she'd be like, it's only the one dwarf, Will." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I like come back and I'd be like, "Which dwarf is that?" And she's like, "Actually, that one is." And then it'd be something like Frankenstein, and I'm like, What's happening in the show?"
That show always felt to me like somebody in a like rom-com-esque mix-em-up
Right.
accidentally dropped their script for this show that was really just their fan fiction,
Right.
and they accidentally picked up someone else's script, and then that made it to the desk of a studio exec, and they greenlit it. And it was like, no one intended for this to exist, but somehow we're here,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't reckoned with it.
Yeah, I just thought it was Kingdom Hearts for girls.
Yeah, Veronica
Okay.
watched it. I know that much at least.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty reductive of me, but
Do they how do we get there? How do we
so
get there?
Phil, you were
wait,
talking
wait,
about
wait.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
You were talking about a Western, right? So this is a
Yeah.
Western, and I don't know if you know this, but a lot of Westerns are sometimes called spaghetti Westerns. And the reason why they're called
did you know
spaghetti
that's because they're
Western.
filmed in Italy?
Yes, I did. This was the transition I was trying to do.
Oh
but,
my
all
gosh,
right.
yeah. That's
And
so cool.
speaking
What else
of,
do we know about Italy?
I don't know, Phil. What else do we know about Italy?
They have cameras.
That's right. We watched a movie about a camera. We watched The Machine to Kill a Machine to what is it called?
It's-
Okay. There's two different names because it's translated from an Italian
Right.
title. It is either The Machine to Kill Bad People or The Machine That Kills Bad People. I like The Machine to Kill Bad People better.
Same. I don't know why. So anyways,
it feels like a more of an action title.
Yeah, and
a verb title, if you will.
All right, so the Machine to Kill Bad People is a 1952 Italian fantasy comedy film directed by Roberto Rossellini and starring a bunch of people who don't have Wikipedia pages, which is how I do all my research. And it's 80 minutes long. I don't know how much money it made. And I don't know what its budget was because, again, Wikipedia didn't give me this.
There's like no information about this
There's
movie.
very little information. It does not have a score on Rotten Tomatoes, but it does have an audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So how do you guys think this movie is sitting on Rotten Tomatoes?
Gut reaction 63.
Oh, I was going to say 65.
Oh,
Phil has it 58.
Oh, good job.
Phil, you picked this movie. Why did you pick this movie?
okay. So this is going to sound like a wild reason, but you guys know me. This is actually maybe just going to sound par for the course. A while ago, I was scrolling through HBO looking to add things to my list that I'll never watch. And I put this on there because it had an interesting title. The thumbnail is just a half-naked old dude, and I thought, well, this is interesting and weird. And then I looked at the plot summary of it, and I was like, this just sounds like an episode of Twilight Zone made into a movie. It came out before Twilight Zone, but you guys know what I mean. So I threw it on my list, and then I don't know, 4 months later or something, I didn't know what to watch, and then I picked this one. So long story short, no real reason. I just was interested in the thumbnail.
All right. So none of us had seen this movie before, right?
Like no one has seen this movie.
Yeah, that was interesting. So Phil, what are your thoughts?
Listen, it hit exactly the like nail that I was expecting it to hit. It is like a proto Twilight Zone episode made into a full-length movie. Now, does it have maybe the M. Night Shyamalan effect of like, you should be making Twilight Zone episodes instead of hour-and-a-half long movies? Maybe. But overall, I really enjoyed this. It delivers on the premise that it wrote for its plot summary. And I don't know, like you can't go wrong with a Twilight Zone episode for me. So I'm into it. Craig, I do want to hear your thoughts. You were around when this was filmed.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone that was in this?
Yeah. I mean, I knew most.
There are some
of
Americans
them.
in this.
Yeah. There are some Americans, and you can tell because every once in a while they speak English out of nowhere.
Yeah, you can also tell because everyone loves when they're around, and then also is like really annoyed by their existence.
Yes.
And that feels right to me with all the Americans I've met.
My general thoughts are
General thoughts?
basically what you said. Is this could have, if you sanded off some of the edges, you can make a good Twilight Zone episode, or like Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's a much more happy,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
optimistic.
Yeah. Way
than those
happier than
ones.
either of those.
Yeah. So I won't go into spoiler territory yet, but it's like things basically go back to normal. It's like, all right, you learned your lesson. Boom.
Yeah.
As opposed to,
Black Mirror would be like, oh, yeah, you made all these mistakes. Live with it, dick.
and also you gotta this pig.
That episode is why Caitlin has only seen half an episode of
That
Black
episode
Mirror.
is why so many people stopped watching that show.
Yeah, she was just like, I can't do this. And then I was like, why not? She's like, think of his family. And then she left. And I was like, okay.
Oh man. So pig aside, Will,
Yeah.
How did you feel about this movie? I'm curious.
So I want to set the scene a little bit of watching this at Craig's
Yes.
house, because I show up and Craig's like, usually when I show up, Craig is trying to get me to consume something. And unless it's beer, I usually politely decline, but this time it was beer. And it was a Imperial Stout, a 10% beer. And was it taller than normal too?
A little bit, yeah.
It was like
Oh,
they were
no.
like 16 ounces or something like that. So halfway through the
Did you
movie,
get drunk at Craig's?
Craig just leaves and comes back like 20 minutes later with a sandwich. And I was like, do you want me to like rewind or something? And he's like, nah. So I may have fallen asleep during that time. I don't think I did, but there is a small chance I did. But
Well, every once in a while he would yell up. He's like, "Oh yeah, he just took a picture of that one lady."
the mean lady's dead. Oh wait, no,
Yeah.
she's not dead.
No, she's not.
He didn't mean to take a picture of her, or maybe he did. I don't know.
Like, what the hell's going on down there?
Anywho, so all of that aside, I don't think I've ever felt less qualified to talk about a movie, because like it's supposed to be a comedy, or it's billed as a comedy, and while there are funny moments, specifically the casket with the Hitler arm,
Oh my God.
sort of like addition. For the most part, I kind of felt like I kind of was. See, there is a less than zero chance that there were many jokes that occurred, and I didn't even know a joke was happening. You know, because I felt like I like it was one of those moments where I was watching a movie about post-war Italy, or like learning about post-war Italy, and I had to remind myself of, like, oh yeah, Italy was the bad guys. I always forget that, you know. I forget the whole Mussolini part, you know. And so like I just felt like there was like a lot of like tropes, maybe is the right word, or like historical like sort of like jokes maybe, and I just sort of felt like I kind of don't know. You know, I'm not feeling like I understand the politics of what's happening, and I feel like part of like, and maybe there are jokes inside of there that I'm not understanding.
Yeah. So small bit of research. When Wikipedia states comedy for this movie, if you click on it, it goes to, it's not like our modern American interpretation of comedy.
It's like
it's more of like a time and a place. Not necessarily all jokes. But like there's a focus on social issues, and I think it just is to sort of distinguish it from. What are you gonna say?
It's sort of like how William Shakespeare comedies aren't necessarily funny. It just means like they don't end in tragedy.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's more what they go for with comedy, because there's not a lot of like. I don't feel like there's a lot of outright jokes, at least as far as like what was translated into English. Again, except for the fascist salute casket, which I busted a fucking gut with that.
God, yeah.
Because the rest of the movie does feel like it's played fairly seriously.
Yeah.
But then the first guy he kills dies giving the
Heil
Nazi
Hitler
salute, or the fascism salute. And then when he's buried, they couldn't move his arm, so they built.
So yeah, they showed the casket, and there's like this weird tube sticking out of it.
It's such a good joke, and it comes out of left field, and then they never get to the same point.
Yeah, it's like just like somebody from Monty Python came in and it's like, I'm going to write this one little bit and then I'm going to go home, and that's it.
Yeah.
So Phil, do you want to give us a quick, cause I have a side thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But why don't you give us a quick rundown of the movie?
Yeah. So we're in the Amalfi Coast. I think we're in Amalfi in Italy, post-war. We open with some Americans who are trying to come in and buy some land to build a hotel and make a bunch of money off of tourism. Then we transition, I think, immediately to this very poor photographer who.
Well, isn't the place they're trying to bulldoze like where they put their cremated dead?
It's a cemetery
Like-
because there's not enough land to bury people, so they put people in these like rock cairns almost. And it's also like a castle, so it's like this historical thing as well. It's a classic American thing to bulldoze a cemetery and a castle to put up a hotel.
The reason they want to do it is they want it to be where all the soldiers will come and visit to see where they landed to to invade Italy.
Yeah, there was like this weird sort of like like trying to like cash in on sort of the history as it already happened. Like it was like this weird sort of. I had a hard time following that.
That feels comedic to me. I like that.
Yeah, but I had a hard time following that plot. I'm sure the beer didn't help, but like, I just was sort of like, I think part of it was I didn't realize they were American until about like maybe a third of the way through the movie, because they just sounded like Italians and they looked like Italians to me. And then I realized, what they look like is American Italians. They don't actually look Italian. And so, yeah. But I mean, he was also wearing an ascot, and I was like, Americans don't wear ascots. Like,
no.
I didn't know he was. Yeah. So that part was a little hard to follow. I feel like this movie is a movie that would benefit greatly from a dub. Just because I felt like a lot of. It was just a lot. It felt like a lot of reading while also trying to watch a lot of like fast.
They were speaking very, very fast.
They were speaking very quickly, and there was like kind of a lot going on screen.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt myself like doing that thing where I'm like looking up and down too much. And I just sort of felt like, and I wanted to watch the visuals, because that's the other thing I enjoyed about this movie. While it wasn't like incredibly well shot or anything, the location is awesome. Like just like this, it's like this castle built within the rock face of like a lagoon looking area. I don't know what to call it, but like, and like, so like there's like one of the very first scenes, our main character is like leaving his house, and like he sneaks out the back and like goes up all of these like different staircases and just like keeps appearing, and like the camera's not really moving at all. It's just sort of following him as he goes up and up and up and up and up. And it's just like this like haphazardly built, obviously thousands of year old like location that was just, I'm like, man, everything in America is made out of cardboard. we don't care about. Oh God.
Okay, Phil, keep going.
Yeah. So we've got this photographer. He takes pictures. That's what photographers do. Then they're having a parade for St. Andrew, who is like the patron saint of the town. But you get the vibe from the photographer and other people that like this town is not doing well.
Yeah.
So they say stuff like, "Oh, St. Andrew left us," blah blah blah. But they're having this parade, and there's this weird old man who almost gets run over by our American characters at the beginning.
No, I think he does. He just
he
disappears.
Does get run over, but then he just disappears.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Huh? Well, I don't see him
today.
Okay,
I thought I killed a man. I guess I didn't. It's just like the war.
It's just like the war." And then this weird old man shows up at the photographer's and is like, "Hey, people are bad, aren't they?" And the guy's like, "Oh, what if they're not?" And this St. Andrew, the guy, they lead you to believe that like this is supposed to be a St. Andrew character. We find out later it's not. But he just keeps saying that like people are bad and you should the good people don't do anything about it. So maybe a good person should do something about it. And the guy's like, "Oh, interesting, blah blah blah." And the guy's like, "Let me show you what you can do." And then he has him take a picture with his camera of a photo of the fascist military leader of the town.
Well, I think he's just like the night guard now, right?
Yeah, he's like the night guard now, but he's like...
But he was a part of the, not Nazi party, but the fascist party, or whatever Mussolini called them.
And then that guy dies, which is where we get that scene that Will was talking about, where like he leaves out the back door of his like studio / house and just like appears in random like stairwells and then like disappears and then shows up on the other. It's very Scooby-Doo almost. That shot was really cool where it's kind of like slowly going up and he just like he's following all these stairs up. Finds out that guy's dead. That guy, you see him, he's died in the exact position of the photograph.
Which I like that concept.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool.
I didn't pick up on that until like maybe death number 4.
Yeah,
that's what was happening.
They like didn't show this guy at all before he dies. So you didn't know that like him wearing that uniform that he ended up dying in wasn't a normal thing, and him giving the fascist salute wasn't a normal thing. But he's giving the fascist salute when he dies. So then they have the funeral. That's where the coffin scene comes in. This movie is worth it to watch just for that scene. It's so funny. And we've already ruined it, but like it's still going to be funny. So the photographer goes through like a crisis of like, well, this can't be real. This has to be a coincidence, blah, 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 you know, and then the fascist military guy's wife is also a jerk. But because of the death of this guy, all this really good stuff starts happening to the town. Like they get 11 million lira. I don't know the
we couldn't figure it out.
That.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's a lot of money. But the government sends them like 11 million lira to like help fix up the town and do a bunch of stuff. So most of the rest of the movie is them trying to figure out what to do with these funds while our photographer guy is trying to make sure that something good happens with them, which the wife of the military guy, it was going to be, for whatever reasons, it sounds like it was going to be, no. She's just also got a bunch of money. And she's going to leave it to...
Yeah, she's a loan shark. His wife was a loan shark, so she made her living loaning out money, and then, you know...
So she's going to give all of her riches, you know, this is in her will that they find, to the 3 poorest people in town. And our photographer guy's like, oh, sick, that's rad as f***. We love that. We stand poor people getting money from rich people. But the other wealthy people, the business owners, those people don't want that, so they try and steal the will. Our photographer guy starts killing those people one by one with his camera. He puts the wife in like a state of coma.
Well, he took a
picture of somebody next to her, but her photo was she was also in the photo, and he covered it up with a black piece of paper that had holes in it.
But he didn't know it had holes in it.
Yeah, she didn't get the full effect of the camera. But she still was like injured. And then
Craig, if you're wondering when this happened, it's when you were getting your sandwich.
Hey, if everyone wants to know, it was a very good sandwich. So it was worth it.
Tell me about it. What was on it?
I think it was a ham and Swiss.
Okay.
Ham and Swiss, tortilla. Awesome. And you just kind of like Veronica has this thing where she folds it up a specific way. You pop it into the toaster.
And she made you a hot pocket. That's what that's called.
Was it?
You don't put a hot pocket
like a psycho.
The microwave. I put condiments on after.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, you were really scaring me. I thought you were a dry sandwich person.
No. But I'm like, only certain deli meats can go with certain condiments. Like you can't have turkey with mustard.
Oh, incorrect. I love turkey and mustard.
Really?
I love mustard. I'd put mustard on just about anything.
No, I'm a ham and mustard, and then mayo and turkey.
Yeah, mayo and turkey is definitely superior to mustard and turkey. But
what about this though? A little bit of mayo and a little bit of mustard on either of those sandwiches.
That's fine.
There's no rules at my house.
It's true.
So if it's like Jimmy John's, I don't care. But if I make it, I have to follow my own rules, and I'm That's a really strict person.
You know what? So. I respect that. A man's got to have a code.
Yeah.
Anyway, so our main character does have a code, and it's kill the people he thinks are bad people, while not realizing that he's turning into a bad person because he's killing people. Mm-hmm. And then
dun dun dun.
After he's killed like 4 or 5 people at this point, he somehow summons this St. Andrew character.
He's gonna take a picture of him.
Well,
He
he's gonna.
goes to take a picture of him.
Well,
That's
I
it.
thought he was trying to kill himself. And the St. Andrew comes back. Is that what happens?
No, he was trying to take a picture
picture of St. Andrew.
Yeah.
He was cutting out.
Oh, okay.
He had a photo of the crowd that had this guy in there. And
Oh,
he cut it
yeah,
out,
that's
and he was
right.
like, "Oh, I'm going to stop this all." And then, no, you
but
know
he
what?
does talk about it.
He does talk about it. He says,
Yeah.
"I've become like a bad guy," and he has a picture of himself. And then he's like, "No, I'm going to stop this where it started.
Okay.
I'm going to kill this
yeah.
guy." And then that summons this St. Andrew character, who then reveals that he's a demon. But he's like not allowed back. They
hang
lore
on.
dump out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They lore dump.
But also, like, it's not only that he's like a demon, it's that he then like just turns into like a satyr. Like he
Yeah.
he gets
Because
horns
goats
and
are-
like takes has no shirt and like has hooves and like,
Because goats are demons. Have you ever seen a goat in person?
oh no, they have no souls.
They have rectangular eyes.
Yeah, they
They're
have no souls.
terrifying.
Caitlin and
Yeah.
I were with Jack. We're like talking about if we had a farm, what would we have on the farm? And Caitlin was like, and we'd have goats. And I was like, no goats. No, no goats. They eat everything. They don't have souls. And
They have horizontal pupils.
and they have horizontal pupils. That's wrong.
which
That's
also
wrong.
I think don't make sense because most of the time they have their head down, so they end up being vertical pupils. Horizontal pupils are for predator spotting,
squares.
and if they turn them down,
Also,
then they're
there's a
not
strain
getting-
of goats
anyways.
that when you scare them, they faint.
that's
Yes.
not a good adaptation. I will tell you that. I'm not a scientist, but I can tell you with 100% confidence that's not a good adaptation.
Also, gravity doesn't work on goats. They can like climb
Yeah.
trees.
oh, listen,
shouldn't be able
there's
to do
freaking
that.
mountain goats over here in Colorado, and you see them, and they're just like, "How'd you get up here?
Yeah, but
We're
they'll be like
14,000 feet up. How'd you get here?"
and then you'll just be like, where's my goat? He's up in my tree. He jumped up into my tree.
Freaking goats. Oh, he kills a donkey at one point, which is
It's
kind of
true.
fucked
Oh
up.
my god. Hee haw. Hee haw.
That donkey is like, I'm like, oh, that's a man. That is not a donkey at all. That is
That
a man
is-
going, hi, hi.
Yeah. So anyway, the guy turns into and he's like, "Oh, I'm a demon. And also I'm like a bad demon and I can't get back into hell because blah blah blah." He like there is so much more information given to you in this moment than I ever would have expected this movie to do. And then then he says that like, "Oh, no one goes to hell anymore. You just have to do one good deed and you're fine." And then our guy is like, "Oh, just do one good deed." And then he turns into like, I'm guessing a human and doesn't go to hell.
Yeah.
And then everything is fine.
Yeah, everyone
he
came.
undoes all of what our main character did. All of the deaths are undone. And this demon just gets to live as a human, as this guy's like uncle or something. I can't remember what he says.
Yeah, well,
It was a strange ending.
you found the Jesus loophole of Christianity.
Yup.
So, can I go on a
Yeah.
small thing? Okay.
Yes.
So, I did try to do some research. Like I said, this is not a very known film.
yeah, it makes me
I-
super cool that I picked this.
So, it's not a very known film for general people, but also like even for the director Roberto Rossellini. He's kind of like one of the founders of neorealism. So like you have the French New Wave that comes a little bit later, but like in Italy, I mean, there's a whole lot of backstory. But neorealism is basically you're trying to showcase some. It's typically was about poor people because this was post-war, and so like Rome Open City is his famous movie that was made at the very end of World War II. And so there's no you're filming on the site. There's no like filming on a set. None of that. You're very naturalistic. You're not using professional actors. In a lot of cases, you're really just trying to just get people for natural
it's like
performances.
Italian mumblecore.
Yes. There's, like I said, it's typically about poor people or the living conditions of the people after the war. So there's some social change in there. And then, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember all the parts. There is a pretty interesting video about this on YouTube. I mean, there's a lot on neorealism, but it kind of explains the set. It's hard to judge people's acting when it's an old foreign film. So that's a bit harder.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like when I say I've never felt less qualified to talk about a movie, because even all of the things you're explaining just now, like, are piquing my interest and making me want to rewatch it with those things in mind. But like going into this, I do not, if anyone's interested, I do not recommend going into this movie cold in any way, because that's how I went in, and I just kind of felt like it. You know what was funny? Like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about like how when I said I went to the UK, and as I was standing in like these like 1,000-year-old buildings, my first thought was like, I can't even comprehend how to appreciate this. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah,
and that's how I felt watching this. Like I was like, I don't even. I know that this is probably better than it feels for a lot of reasons that I just don't have context for, like I'm smart enough in history and like movies to know that I don't know anything about this,
Mm-hmm.
So I think Fellini is a big proponent of that too.
I know that name.
Yep. And then the other director is but the Bicycle Thieves is the movie.
Yeah,
a lot of people know Bicycle Thieves.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So it's Vittorio De Sica. And one of the interesting videos I recommend watching, if you're just at all interested about learning about foreign film, is they talk about how they took it's comparing. There's a Italian cut of a movie, and then there's like the American cut of it. And the guy had worked with Daryl Zanuck, which is an American producer, like super producer back in the day. And then I'm trying to just bear with me for a second here. I got to find out.
Rawr.
Punny.
Which one it was. Because it is really interesting because they show the different clips, and like the Italian way of shooting it, they'll shoot people walking as opposed to you edit it. You can tell that someone's going somewhere, and so you cut it out because everything else is just added runtime.
Right.
Or when your main character leaves the scene, you cut.
And then you show them arriving. Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to the Italian cut, which is you actually show the person leaving the scene, and then other people, you kind of stick with the people who are still there, and someone else might show up. They're not integral to the plot, but it makes it feel more lived in.
Oh, I see.
These are not extras. Yeah. These are your subjects. These are the people that the movie is about, really, also. So it's just interesting to see how the different ways that other countries will cut their films and what's important to show as opposed to the American tradition of doing it.
Yeah.
The movie is God damn it. You can cut all the
No, I'm leaving it in.
Oh, good. A lot of De Sica's is Sophia Loren. So I'm going through all these, and almost all of them are Sophia Loren. Oh, okay. Indiscretion of an American Wife. So there's the American cut that most people have seen, then there's the Italian cut that a lot of people like more. It's on Prime. But just if you look up neorealism on YouTube, like one of the first videos will be, it doesn't say it's about this movie, but I had to do some research to figure out But again, if you're at all interested in seeing how different country, like how their cinema is different than ours, not just now, but way in the past, it's a really interesting video. I recommend checking it out. But just even learning a little bit about that tradition of neorealism with this movie, it's helped me appreciate it a bit more. I think, like you said, I'd like to see it again, just to appreciate the cinematography of it, the natural locations. I do remember their beginning when they're driving through, you could kind of see the whole town. Like, it's a really nice cinematography. Like, everything looks very beautiful.
They did a POV car shot that was very weird.
Yeah, we talked about
it was like
that.
An action movie. They like just hooked the camera to the front of the car and just drove at a normal speed, and it is way too fast.
Yeah.
But I don't, there's something about this movie that I really enjoyed, and I just feel like it is like this early version of so many things that I do like with that like Twilight Zone vibe and the like kind of similar scope of like cast and scope of like consequences. I don't know that this movie like hits all the buttons for me, but I do think there's a lot about this movie that feels like it, whether anyone knows it or not, it informed a lot of stuff that came after it.
Yeah. So Phil, if you were to give this a rating, what would you give it?
Ooh, okay. This is a tough one. I do feel like this is definitely worth seeing. Not just for the coffin scene, but like that's a big plus. I think it's really cool to see. I always like the idea of old science fiction, or like old science fantasy, because they kind of blend together a lot earlier, because science was different, or like technology was different. But I always just like to see like what they think of as science fiction or science fantasy 70 years ago. So that's always super fun. I had a lot of fun watching this, so I feel like I can't give it lower than like, I'm gonna say a 3.5 out of 5. It had to happen the night I took a laxative. Craig,
yeah,
where are you on this one? I have no idea what to feel about this. Is like anyways.
I'm right there with you. One other thing I wanted to bring up that kind of changed things for me is like the one review of this movie on YouTube. That guy kind of interpreted it as like the whole thing is he's given this power to do good in the world, and his tool is a camera. And what is taking pictures or making a movie, if not trying to influence people about social change or something?
Mm-hmm.
You can do a lot of good with a camera, and you can do a lot of bad with a camera. So I don't know if that's exactly what the filmmaker was going for. I think it's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
So I think there's some really good bones, and there's a lot of parts of this movie that I enjoyed a lot. Could it be? It could be a lot better. While I enjoyed the coffin scene, it's a little too out of place. So I'm gonna give it 3.5 out of 5. That's not a real donkey.
Yeah.
Well.
I mean, I feel like I don't understand what this movie like, and I feel unqualified, so I'm just going off of like sort of just pure gut and nothing else, just kind of like how, and it was one of those movies where, and I almost did this, and I really wish I had. I almost, before we started watching the movie, I wanted to hand Craig a piece of paper and then ask Craig to open the paper live on the podcast as to what it was going to say on the inside. I really wish I had done it, because what I was going to write was, we are going to talk through the entirety of this movie, which is what we did.
Yeah, we did.
Well, until Craig left to get a sandwich.
I was just talking to myself then. So there's still talking happening. But like, I kind of knew that was what I was going to go. So I'm going to give this movie 2.5. Everybody's talking with their hands all the time.
Yeah.
Out of 5.
That's, yep. That'll
Yeah,
do it.
it's like, oh yeah, that stereotype exists for a reason. Holy moly.
Yeah, definitely higher than I thought I was going to give it.
I had
just-
no idea where I was going to put this. And
Yeah.
it's like right in the middle. And I think it's perfect as is. Although truly, if you like sanded down the rough edges and maybe sanded down like 30 minutes of it, this would be like nearly a 5 for me. It's really, I think it's really cool.
I think
It's just
got
there's a
some
lot of
really
rough
interesting
parts.
ideas.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that like not a lot of people have seen this movie.
Yeah. Well, it just means we're cooler because we have.
I know, right?
I'm going
We
to
can
tell
be
everyone.
snooty film people.
Yeah.
So it is my turn to pick the next movie. And so we're going to do something we've never done before. And it might be a huge mistake, but we'll find out. But we're going to do a double feature, because I have had on my list of movies to watch Roadhouse, and they just came out with a new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal. So we're going to
Yeah.
watch Roadhouse and Roadhouse next week. And that will be what we do, I guess. And it might be our longest episode ever. Who knows? It might beat out Solaris, which was like a 3-hour-long episode.
Yeah.
It's just you guys bitching for 2.5 hours. So
No,
That
it was
feels
because
right.
it was because Craig, both you and Phil watched other versions of Solaris.
oh, that's right.
'Cause
That's
Phil
true.
read the
Yeah,
book,
I read
and then
the
you-
book and watched another.
Yeah, both of you watched another movie. So like, for like half of that movie, I just played on my phone, or not movie that.
Wait, that was really
episode.
the first double feature. So
It really was, even though I didn't watch it. But yeah,
you did do it. So Roadhouse is on HBO Max and Prime,
Prime. Yep.
the original, and then Roadhouse, the new one's on Prime. So
Cool. Oh, I'm excited.
thank you for liking and subscribing to the podcast. We're on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to tell us what's your favorite, God,
Italian neorealism film is.
no, actually, I'll piggyback off of yours. If you guys want to tell us what your favorite Netflix adaptation, live action or adaptation of a anime is.
Ooh.
Yes.
Definitely not the
Because-
Cowboy Bebop.
There's been a lot of them, and apparently they're all terrible except for One Piece.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
This episode was brought to you by Willfully Woven, who is my brother and sister-in-law. If you are interested in helping support us and want to hear your name shouted out on the podcast, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/mumbleandtrug.
If you like what you heard, consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or write down a review and then take a picture of it with an old-timey camera, and then it will kill all three of us instantly.
Please, please do that.
Do that.
I need that.
Kill me, kill me, kill me.
That's all for this episode. I'm Phil Kessel.
I'm Will Chodas.
And I'm Greg Norland.
Will, what's that camera do?
I killed Phil, and it's a picture of him in high school dressed as Mario. So now he's just forever Mario dead.
That's actually pretty sick.
Oh wait, I'm in that photo too.
Brought to you by Mumble and Shrug Productions.